Financially raw, real, authentic wisdom with Lawrence Oberholzer from Retire Rich and Happy.
So let's get going into our topic today, the 5 steps to retire rich and happy. So let's start by first giving you a little bit of my background. I started in the financial services industry in 1999. So I've been in the industry for 22 years now, going on 23 years, almost a quarter of a century. And when I got into the industry, I realized there was 2 major problems in the financial services industry. The first one being the fact that the whole process of financial services is basically a selling process. It is people running around selling products to people without a lot of focus being put on planning, on creating strategies and education more first and foremost. The second problem was the retirement crisis, and that was highlighted to me because of my dad's situation. So those of you who don't know the story of my dad, he started working on the mines when he was very young. He worked on the coal mines for almost 40 years, and he did everything right. You know, the lessons that they tell us since we are very small: go to school, get a good education, go work for a company, get onto the pension fund, and then save as much as you can, live within your means, and at the end of the 40 years you will have enough money saved up to live a comfortable retirement into your golden years. Now, my dad did all of that. He never took out his pension. He worked at one company. He retired, bought a house cash, didn't have a lot of expenses. And even after doing everything right, by 1999, he was retired for about 5 to 6 years. And the income just didn't keep track with inflation, and he started running into cash flow problems. So I looked at that and I thought to myself, you know what, if somebody who did everything they told us is the recipe to retire comfortably, still couldn't retire comfortably, there must be something wrong with the system. And that motivated me to start doing some research on how can we fix the system, because surely the best we could hope for after working for 40 years is not to retire with 50 to 70% of our incomes. There must be a better way, and that's when I started developing the 5-step program. So the 5 steps is as follows. So I'm going to quickly share with you the 5 steps, and then we're going to go from there and dive into each one a little bit deeper. So the first step is called invest in yourself. This is all about education and development. So developing you as a person, developing your mindset, and developing your financial intelligence. The second step is minimize your risk. And the importance of minimizing your risk is that you need to make sure that doesn't matter what happens to you, your life and your dependents' lives can continue in the same manner that you were used to. We aren't in control of everything that happens to us. We are in control in how we react to what happens to us, but we are not in control of what happens to us. So we don't know. You get in your car, you go to work, and a taxi skips the robot, he hits you and you're paralyzed. These things happen. We might think it only happens to other people, but the reality is it does happen. And if these things happen, you have to have your foundation solid, your financial security in place to make sure that your life can continue and your plans can continue so that you can retire comfortably. The third step, once we've minimized your risk, we then go to become an entrepreneur. So this is extremely important because you cannot think you will generate enough income from your primary source of income, that is your job or your salary, to save enough to get you to retirement. You need to create MSI, multiple sources of income, and we'll talk about that now. The key here is that profit you make from that entrepreneurial venture of yours needs to go and build a capital asset so that can become freedom income that will guide you towards your financial freedom. So that capital asset, once you've built it, you then go to step 4 of the process, which is invest in income generating assets. So you take your capital, you put it in into an income generating asset, which creates another income stream. And then we create a generational wealth spiral. And as I say, when I go into each of these steps in a little bit more detail, we will talk about this generational wealth spiral. And then step number 5 is all about retiring happy. And that is called pay it forward. It is about sharing what you know, making a difference to other people's lives, or making a contribution to somebody else's success. So that is the 5 steps. Invest in yourself, minimize your risk, become an entrepreneur, invest in income generating assets, and pay it forward. And that is the 5 steps. That is the cornerstone of everything we do. This is what we teach people, and this is where our coaching fits in to help people do everything. So let's start with step number 1, which is invest in yourself. So that is step number 1. What does invest in yourself mean? So invest in yourself is all about developing yourself, developing you as a person, and looking at your personal cash flow situation as well. So the first thing we need to develop is your financial intelligence. Guys, you need to learn the rules of the game of money. Unfortunately, we come from an education system that for generations have taught us how to become a good employee and earn an income, but it doesn't really teach us what to do with the income once we've earned it. So we get to age 40, we battered, we bruised, our expenses are higher than our incomes, and we've got all this unsecured debt, we've got credit card debt, we've got personal loans, and then people look at us and say, but you needed to be a little bit more disciplined with your money. Why did you make these stupid decisions? Well, you didn't know any better, because we were never taught the rules of the game. How I always explain it to people is, if 4 of us sit around a table and we decide to play a game of Monopoly, and 3 of us have played the game 100 times before, and 1 guy has never ever played Monopoly, he doesn't know the game from a bar of soap. How long will it be before he goes bankrupt if he doesn't know what the principles and the rules of the game are? Not very long, because he won't know what needs to happen. And even if this guy is a very intelligent guy, he will pick up on what's happening. But by the time he's picked up, all the good properties would have been sold already, and he will already be so far behind the 8 ball that he probably never catch up. So that is where most of us find ourselves. We start trying to make ends meet when we're in our 20s, trying to figure out exactly what the adult life is about. And then we think, I don't have to worry too much about retirement or planning for financial independence. In my 20s, I've still got years and years and years to go. And before we know it, we have kids, we have a bond that we have to pay, and school fees, all of these expenses. And then suddenly planning for our financial future becomes 3rd, 4th, 5th, 10th priority. And we just don't do any of this. Secondly, we don't really know where to start. So we don't have a proper strategy to follow. We don't know exactly what we should do. Now, when I did my research and started this 5-step process, or developed this 5-step process, I read hundreds of books of financial gurus all across the world to try and figure out what the best advice is and how we can make it practical. And one of the big things that I realized from reading all of these books, the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Susie Ormans, all of these guys that write these financial books and financial development books, is the advice is fantastic, the advice is very good, but the advice is not very practical. They tell you what you should do, they tell you what you need to get to, what you should invest in, but they don't give you a step-by-step plan to follow to get there. And then what that creates is a big knowing-doing gap. A gap between what you know you should do. When reading these books, you learn that you need to invest in an asset, that the asset should give income and all of this. But how you get there is a problem. Where do you start? And that's why I started developing the 5-step program, to make it simple for people to know I do this, and then once I've done with that, then I go to the following one. And then from there, we created a financial coaching system whereby we not only teach you the 5 steps, but you also get guided by a coach for the implementation of that 5 steps through a trialed and tested implementation program. So if you are interested in finding out more about our financial coaching, you're welcome to go to retirehappy.co.za, and there we've got a webinar that explains exactly how the coaching can help you, which you can view on demand, or you can book a live session to watch the webinar with me, and you can ask me questions directly. So you are welcome to go there. But even if you don't do the coaching, even if you don't get involved with the 5 steps, you need to start putting definite effort into your financial education and your financial intelligence. Guys, you need to understand what is happening, because if you don't understand what needs to be done, people will take advantage of you. So you need to be knowledgeable. You need to understand how these things work, what you need to implement, and the plan that you need to follow. Because you will be taken advantage of with people who have more knowledge than you, which will just overpower you with all this information which you don't understand. And then you get this feeling of, well, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, so I can just as well follow what he says. And 6 months down the line, you have no idea what you're actually doing and no idea how it actually helps you. So it's very important that you educate yourself. Another thing that you need to focus on is your personal development. That is also key. You need to mentally develop yourself. Your mindset needs to be developed, because there's a saying that is very true, and that saying says, wherever the mind goes, the body will follow. So if you don't develop your mindset to start thinking like a wealthy person, to start thinking like a successful person, your body will just go where the mind leads it. That is the reason so many people who win the lottery and suddenly have millions of rands or millions of dollars in their account, in 6 months' time or a year's time goes back and are even in a worse financial situation they were in before they won the lottery. Because although their bank account changes, their bank balance changed, their mindset never changed. So they were still in that mindset of lack, that mindset of being poor. And what will happen? Wherever the mind goes, the body will follow. And the mindset will take the body and the physical situation they are in back to what the mind expects it to be, which is lack, which is being poor. So it's very important to develop your mindset. It's very important to create a positive outlook in life, an outlook of gratitude for what you have, so that you can be strong enough to go through this journey to become financially independent. Another thing that you need to understand from investing in yourself is that an extraordinary life or extraordinary financial situation, financial independence, being financially retired in 10 years or in your 40s, doesn't just happen by chance. It only happens by design. It's not going to happen with you just randomly waiting for people to see you sell your product, paying your bills every month, and suddenly you're going to be wealthy because somebody gave you a big salary. You have to design your life. Otherwise, you are not going to achieve it. You need to understand what the goal is that you're the destination that you're trying to achieve. You need to understand and have a clear picture of what that destination looks like. Because if you don't know where you're going, that is exactly where you're going to end up. Nowhere. Because if I say to you, let's go on holiday, start packing. What is the first question you're going to ask me? You're going to say, okay, where are we going? And if I tell you, well, I don't know, don't worry, just start packing. You're going to say, but I can't pack because I don't know what kind of clothes to pack. I don't know what to do because I don't know where I'm going. And say, well, let's get in the car and start driving. Well, where are we driving to? Well, I don't know. And that is how we build our lives. We go through life saying, I want to be financially independent. I want to be wealthy. I want to have all of these things. But then when we say, well, where are you going? You don't know where you are going. You're not designing your life going forward. So it is very important, and that's why it's the starting point is invest in yourself first. What also happens with the invest in yourself phase is to first create financial stability. What does financial stability mean? It is where you have control over your cash flow and have the ability to survive with the income that you have at the moment. I see so many people that they always postponing to start their journey to go to financial independence. They say, well, I'm just waiting for my next salary increase, then I'll start improving my financial situation. Well, maybe I've applied for this new job. Once I get that job and I get the extra income, then I'll be ready to start planning for my financial future. Or, well, I've got this debt and this debt and this debt to pay off. Once I've done that, then I'll have enough money available to start. Guys, the best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time to start is today. Don't wait until X, Y, and Z first needs to happen. You need to get going with what you want to achieve in your life. There's no better time like today. So it is important that you have to create financial stability first. The first thing is you need to look at your budget, understand where your money is going so that you can have a positive cash flow every month with the income that you earn at the moment. And then you need to get rid of all your unsecured debt. That creates financial stability. You don't have this debt that is killing your cash flow. And secondly, you know exactly where your money is coming from and how much you're spending and how much you have left. That is, once you are there, you are ready to move on. Got a message here from Francois. I'm going to read it in Afrikaans like Francois wrote it, and then I'll translate for the people overseas that is watching this on YouTube and might not understand Afrikaans. He says, ek het al 2 keer gesien hoe mense op straat sit nadat hulle die lotto gewen het. Dis terrible om onkundig te wees met geld. So he says he's already seen twice how people after winning the lotto end up on the street without anything. And that is so true because they don't have the knowledge. Their mindset hasn't been built up to the level to understand what it means to be wealthy. And unfortunately, a lot of times those people get taken advantage of. So it is so important that you have to develop yourself. Guys, there's so few people that take the time for self-development. I talk to a lot of people, and I think it's probably, and I'm guesstimating here, but over 90% of people don't read one book in a year. Not one book. So if you read one book about financial planning or financial development or financial intelligence in a year, you are probably better equipped than 90% of the people in the world. So that's not a lot to ask. So it's very important to start developing yourself. Don't just trust what other people tell you. Go figure things out for yourself. The second step is called minimize your risk. So guys, this is very important because we need to make sure that if something happens to you, and like I said, life happens, things go wrong. If something happens to you, you need to make sure that your life can continue in the same manner as it was used to. Not better, just the same manner. Everything you spend on risk, we're talking about things like your life cover, your disability, your severe illness cover, your medical aid, your short-term insurance with your car and household, your will and your estate planning. All of those things are what-if money. You spend that money for in case something happens to you. The money you put into your short-term insurance, if you don't have a claim, that money is gone. If you put money into a medical aid, if you don't claim from your medical aid, that money is gone. So it is crucial that you have it, but you don't want to overspend on this. So the money you put in there, you're paying a third party for in case something happens to you. It doesn't come back to you. It doesn't create an asset unless one of the eventualities that you are insured for takes place. It doesn't matter what the marketing guys at insurance companies want to tell you about cashback bonuses and bells and whistles and all of these things. You need to understand what the core purpose is of your risk cover. And that is to make sure that if something happens, you and your family are looked after. So when you look at this, when you sit with your financial advisor or you sit with one of our risk specialists at RRH, you shouldn't look at it from the point of view of what have you got and then try and beat what you've got. You need to look at it first and foremost of what do you need first. And only once you've determined what you need, do you then build something that does exactly that. No more, no less. So it is so important if somebody comes and sits with you, your financial advisor, your broker, the guy from the bank, if they sit with you and the first thing they do is have a look at your existing cover and then try and beat the premium or beat the benefits without looking at your personal situation and what you actually need to have in place. This guy is just trying to sell you another product. And most of the time, that's not going to be in your best interest. So you need to ask the questions to the person coming to see you to say, listen, I need you to determine what it is that I need to have insured. Not just I have 3 million life cover with company A, you can give me 3.2 million life cover with company B for the same premium. Because what's the point in that? Is 3.2 million rand life cover enough? Is it too much? Is it too little? What does it actually do? I get a lot of times, especially in the beginning when I saw a lot of clients personally, I don't see that many clients personally anymore, but when I was seeing a lot of clients personally, I got a lot of people that came to me and said, but I've got this policy that somebody took out or that I took out when I was in my 20s. Is it a good policy? And the first question I would always ask them is, what was the reason you started this in the first place? And so many times they say, well, I don't know. The broker came and he said I must take it out because I need to save some money. And then I took it out. And my answer then is, well, then it's not a good policy because it doesn't have a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, then what's the point? Why are you putting the money somewhere? So then we would sit down, look at the person's situation and see if we can give that policy a purpose. Give it a reason to exist. Because the moment you give it a reason to exist, whether that is to make provision for a child's education, to save for retirement, whatever the case may be, once you've given it a purpose, then it becomes a good policy because it can achieve something for you. So minimize your risk. The core principle there is sit down with what you're spending. You want to spend as little money as possible on risk, but you need to look at what do you need first. Not focused on what you got and trying to beat what you've got between one company and another company. Okay, so then you've minimized your risk. You've built your foundation. You now have a solid foundation to build on. Another part of minimizing your risk is to build a reserve account for your cash flow. So under investing yourself, you need to make sure that you have control of your cash flow. You've paid off your debt. Under minimize your risk, you want to build a reserve account, which includes your emergency fund, which is usually 3 times your monthly expenses, and any capex expenditure you might have over the next 12 months. Things like birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, all of those kind of things you have to have in your reserve account. Once you've built your reserve account, you have built financial security because now you become your own bank. And then you are ready to go to step 3 of the process, which is called become an entrepreneur. I truly believe that for us to become financially independent, you have to create multiple sources of income. We call it MSI. You can't just work on PSI, your primary source of income. So your primary source of income, we define as being your lifestyle income. Now, this is something that we teach our students, and that is that every source of income coming into your bank account every month, you need to define as either being lifestyle income or being freedom income. So you need to sit with that money and say, is this lifestyle income or is this freedom income? If it's lifestyle income, it goes into your lifestyle account. and that funds your lifestyle, the house, the car, the clothing, the school fees, all of those kind of things. If you define it as freedom income, it has to go somewhere else. It cannot become part of your lifestyle account. Because once it's part of your lifestyle account and now you want to move it, it now feels like an expense. How many times have you experienced this? You get a payout, a payback from SARS, like a tax refund, or you get a cash payment from the insurance, or anything like that. It goes into your account, and now a week later you have to pay that money out to something else. Now it doesn't feel like it was just money. It is part of your budget, so now it feels like you're paying it. You're just not moving it from one account to another. So you want your freedom income to go into a different account. Now initially that money goes into your reserve account to build your reserve, but once you have created that security, that money flows into what we call your free bucks account. Your free bucks account is a flexible investment account. It's somewhere where you get some access to the market so that you can get some return on your capital investment, but it is accessible at any point. Because you don't want money to be static at one place. You want it to flow. That's why it's called cash flow. That's why it's called currency, because it comes from the word current. It has to flow. So you build a capital asset not for the sake of retiring on your capital asset. You build a capital asset for the sake of having capital to invest in an income generating asset, which is the next step. So when you start becoming an entrepreneur, people think that when we say become an entrepreneur, we mean that you must quit your day job and start a business. That's not what we mean. Becoming an entrepreneur is creating a business asset that generates income through leverage. And you do that by asking the right question before you start a part-time business. Most people that start a part-time business ask the wrong question. They ask the question, what can I do? And then they build a business around that question of what can I do? So the problem with what can I do is it then creates a doing business. We call it a transactional business, where you do certain things and you get paid. If you stop doing those things, you don't get paid anymore. So what you do want to create is you want to create a transformational business, not a transactional business. And to build a transformational business, you need to ask a different question. And that question is not what can I do? That question is what can I teach others to do? Because the moment you can teach somebody else to do something and generate revenue through that, that is what is called leverage. Because that then removes the limit you have on time, the limit you have on what you can earn every month. So you always want to look at creating a transformational business. Now, I'm not saying that you can't start a transactional business. Most businesses that starts out as a transactional business. But from the moment you start, you must immediately start working on a strategy to convert it from a transactional to a transformational business. And that is the true meaning of entrepreneur. The meaning of an entrepreneur is not somebody who starts a business and he works 18 hours a day in that business doing things for money. The meaning of an entrepreneur is somebody who starts and creates a business assets that teaches other people skills so that they can earn a livelihood and he earns money off the efforts of others. That is an entrepreneur. And all of the profit, because you've taken control of your cash flow under the invest in yourself and the minimize your risk phase, the profit you now get from your entrepreneurial venture is not money that needs to be defined as lifestyle income. So you define that income as freedom income, and it moves into your reserve account and into your free bucks account. And once you have reached what we call your investment level in your free bucks account, you are ready to move to the fourth level, which is invest in income generating assets. So what is an income generating asset? An income generating asset is any asset that generates an income as a result of the asset, not what you do in the asset. The most well-known income generating assets are property. So I'm going to use that as an example, but please guys, property is not the only income generating asset that you get. But let's look at property. If you buy a property and you rent that property out for rental income, you don't have to get up in the morning, go work at the property from 8 to 5 to generate the income. The property generates the income as a result of the asset. And that is what is called an income generating asset. The purpose of that income generating asset is to create a positive cash flow immediately. And this is something that is so important. You want to build momentum. You don't want to slow momentum. So what do people do? They invest in a property, for example, but the property is costing them 3,000 Rand a month more than what it is generating. So what is that doing? Is that an income generating asset? No, it's not. Because it is costing you money, it's not making you money. Therefore, it slows your momentum, because money, cash flow that was going to fund your reserve account, fund your free bucks account, grow it so that you can do more income generating investments, is now being diverted to fund an investment. And that's not the situation you want to be in. So you only start investing in an income generating asset if that asset can, as quickly as possible, preferably immediately, start generating a positive cash flow. Because you want to create what I call a generational wealth spiral. Because if that income generating asset gives you a positive cash flow, that cash flow can be defined as freedom income again. And now you have another income stream to fill your free bucks account. Once it's filled to a certain level, you invest in another income generating asset. Now you've got 4 income streams. And as you start building these multiple assets that generate income, you start growing faster and faster and faster, until eventually the income from your assets are equal or more than the income you get from your lifestyle source, your job or your business, your primary business. And the moment you are at that point where the income from your assets are equal to your lifestyle income, you are free. Because now you don't need your job to support your lifestyle anymore. Now you have the choice. So the retirement shouldn't be the day you stop working. Retirement should be the day that you can work because you want to work, not because you have to work anymore. Just imagine for a moment, if from tomorrow you getting your income every month, whether you work or not. Ask yourself the question, will I still go to my job and do the job that I'm doing at the moment if I don't need the income? Or would I do something completely different? If you can honestly say, you know what, even if I have enough income every month, I don't need my salary, I will still do what I'm doing at the moment. You are one of very, very few individuals that are living your passion. And then you can choose to continue living that passion. But if you say, I won't do what I'm doing at the moment, I would rather go do something else, then it is time for you to build towards that freedom so that you can really live. Because while you are not living your passion, you cannot truly live and be happy. And that brings us to step 5. Step 1 to step 4 is all about retiring rich. Whatever rich means to you, because rich is a very subjective term. Rich for one person is not necessarily rich for another. But step 5 is about retiring happy. What does that mean? Step 5 is about making a difference. It's called pay it forward. True happiness, true contentment comes from really doing something for somebody else, giving to somebody else to improve their situation. And I'm not talking about just giving away all your wealth or giving away all your money to people. Because I truly believe in the saying that says, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish, and you'll feed him for a lifetime. If you just give away without teaching, there's only again a limit to what difference you can make in other people's lives. But if you go out with the principle of teaching others what you have done and what you have learned, then you can make a difference in an exponential amount of people's lives. So you can create so much more positivity, so much more success if you teach others. And the beauty of teaching others is if you want to become an expert at anything, you need to teach it to other people. Because the act of teaching it to others makes you an expert on it as well. So pay it forward is an extremely important situation. It also closes the circle. So if you can think about it, pay it forward can be step 1 as well. Because while you're paying it forward, while you're teaching other people, you are then helping them to start investing in themselves. And through them investing in themselves, they can start following the steps again, getting to pay it forward and teaching other people to invest in themselves. So guys, paying it forward is such an important part of retiring rich and happy. It's no point having a lot of money, sitting on the beach, doing nothing and waiting until one day you die. That's not what we want to achieve. We want to achieve helping other people and guiding them. Hi guys, Lawrence here. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and you got some benefit out of it. Please add in the comments any questions you might have or any other topics that you would like me to talk about. Please subscribe to our channel, hit the bell button so that you can get notified of any new videos that we post so you don't miss anything. Thanks guys. See you around.